Hello and very welcome back into Blockbench. I am Kevin, and in this episode we are going to try to look into giving this guy some emotion. Yes, that is very correct. In between episodes I've done some tweaks to the texture, added a bit of an extra depth to the hat up here as well, a red line and some extra colors around, and I can see that I don't feel like I'm completely fine with that just yet. Let me just go over this ever so quickly and do that and do that. And I've done it over here. How come I didn't do it on the... interesting. Okay. Well, sometimes you apparently don't do everything that you think you do, but you do it good enough to get halfway at least. So I'm just gonna go bumpy-dump like that. Add that little extra there, and the one there. Mirror painting. Get up on the cheek, get up on the cheek. I just felt like I wanted it to be ever so slightly more round than compared to before. So all in all, now I would say that our snowman is in a better shape than it had been before. So it has a bit of a shadow underneath the nose. You can see that it's slightly darker as well. Tried to get the hat slightly, haven't apparently gotten that slightly dark, but all in all I should. So let's get the bottom of the hat, just put it slightly darker. And of course the rim here is going to be ever so slightly darker as well. Slightly darker than the rest. Okay. Now that seems to have done most of the trick, and I would of course also like to add a bit of a highlight here on the very edges of the hat, like so, like so. Let's see how that looks. I'm gonna click outside of it and go to edit. Yeah, I think that adds just the extra little depth shape that I would have on this snowman. So this is where we're at today. I begin by clicking Ctrl S to save. Control, hold that and click S while you have saved the file. And if you haven't saved the file, you will now be given an open window into your folder system or computer where you can actually save the Blockbench file. So that's good to know. If you haven't done that in the past, of course. But regardless, it's time to give this guy some emotion. And to animate things in Blockbench, we have a nifty little thing up here to the very right, the very top right, that says Animate. Let's click that. Oh, interesting. Now we have a new interface to work with. Okay, let's get going. What is everything? Well, we have the outliner left from before. And in the outliner now, we can not see the individual blocks. If I were to go to edit, you can see how we can see all these individual cubes that are things on the model. In Animate, they don't exist. In Edit they do, in Animate they don't. It's good. So in Animate, the only thing we care about are all of these different components that are essentially limbs on our character. And these we can rotate, move, and to some extent also scale. Now I'm not going to use the scale tool, and for most reasons it never uses or works in Minecraft anyway, so we'll stick to rotate and move for this. What I would like to do first is to just pose this guy in a new pose. But to do that, first of all, we need to understand a few things about animation. Animation is you tell something to be in one rotation or position at one frame in a timeline. So let's say 1 second I want it to be over there, and for the next 5 seconds I would like it to move to over there and rotate to somewhere. How is that done? Well, it's done with this so-called timeline editor here at the bottom. This has nothing right now, but if I were to select one of these bones, let's say the root for example, it would show up here if I had an animation. Now I have no animation, so Minecraft just goes, well, where am I supposed to put stuff? I'm not sure. And I could also see that apparently, just apparently, the pivot for the base and the root is not where I want them to be. Mid pivot is perfect. It's where I want the mid block to be. But these ones aren't. So I'm going to go back into edit, select pivot, and I'm going to put them down to 0. Put the pivot 0. Okay, good. I'm going to select the root, do the same thing with root. It's at 0, 0, 0. You can see it on the pivot position here. Good. Back into animation. Now they're at the bottom of the character, also at the ground level of the Minecraft. So, okay, to animation, we first need to add animation, and that is done by going to this little window over here, click on the plus that says add animation. If we already have animations for this particular model or an equally rigged model, we can use import animation. And something worth knowing about import animation, the only way they will work is if you have a model that uses all of the very same setup as you have here. All of the folders has to be named the very same thing. That is one of the key components to that. So let's go back into it. Add animation, we're going to start with that. And this one is going to be called pose. We'll just, well, yeah, we'll call it pose. Start with pose. Because in this one, I don't want to do any motion. I just want to put the guy in in a motion position. So first of all, I'm not sure that I would like the snowman to look like this. Like if the snowman were to sit out in the world, I'm fairly certain that he would have like the arm bending in a direction or so. So I'm going to select the left arm by either clicking on the component here in the viewport or by clicking on that particular folder right here. Now, no, when I rotate this, everything that is in a folder underneath, not underneath in hierarchy here, but like so that it's within this line right here, it's called that it's childed to the parent. This one controls the rotation of and position of all of these things in relation to where this one is in the world. So this, for example, rotates from here. This rotation point will rotate in accordance to this rotation point. So if I do this, you can see that the entire arm follows along. Same thing goes now when I have this. The entire outer arm rotates along. And you can also see that apparently I've missed fixing the textures at this very elbow. Whoopsies! But don't worry about that. I'm not going to break the elbow, and it's supposed to rotate in this angle only. So I shouldn't have to deal with that. But we could fix it, so why not? Let's do that while we're at it. We'll keep the animation window. This is important to know. If I were to go to edit now, it's locked, it's closed. But if I were to go into animate, to this very key, on this very animation, it's open, and I can then go to paint. Then it's going to leave me with that open that I already had from the animation window. So I can paint in that. Then return here, and of course, rotate it all the way back to where it was initially. And you can see here on the rotation on the left, what rotation it currently holds on that particular limb. Are you with me? It's maybe a bit fast. I've done animation for many, many years, and if this is quick for you, please tell me down in the comments, and I'll see if there's a way I can get this like across in a more condensed or simpler fashion. But all in all you need to know is that as long as you have this folder system on the right, everything that is put in a folder will rotate with that folder. That's how it works. So for this snowman to be a bit scary, what I would like to do, well, it's not scary, but I would like to segregate the fingers a bit on this side. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to bend them inwards slightly, like a saw. Like a saw, you know, like snowman would usually, I guess. Standing looking a bit creepy out there in the snow. Like a saw, maybe like a saw. Rotate it in a position where it kind of makes sense with the motion. And also maybe move that finger up and maybe move that finger down a bit. That's good. I think that's a good pose. Now we can also choose to move the hand, which we made earlier, like a so. And the elbow, like a so. And then we can choose to move the arm like a so. And suddenly, there's a lot more character to the snowman than we had before or previously. So I'm going to rotate the arm up like that, because I think that this is sort of like a more snowman-esque hand pose. So I can see once again that we have a bit of an opportunity to paint in here that I'm going to take. Every situation I get to repaint something that I've forgotten is a good situation, and apparently I've forgotten just that little extra. Okay, seems all good? Good. Well, it's not necessarily all good, considering I can't necessarily see that face here. I can. Now look at this. This is like next level cheekiness. I can see this green there. I'm just going to zoom in and click it. Oh, that's clever. Could not have done that over here, apparently, obviously, where it would have been much easier and I wouldn't have to move anything. But, you know, sometimes you'd like to do things the hard way. So that's there. Okay, let's post the other arm, go back into animation. This one, I could do them the same way, but I think it's interesting if it's slightly different. So I'm going to go with this one like a diso, and then maybe like bending forward a bit, and then bending like this like a bit, and like this. Maybe bending the thumb slightly like with that. We'll do that finger much higher this time, and with like an even more crooked appearance on the pointer finger, and then bring the pinky down further. So it's like, yeah, more free and open in comparison to before. I think that's good. Now the nose as well can also be rotated like we did before. So I'm gonna rotate it up, not too much, maybe down. Nope, leave it where we had it. And the hat can be rotated around its edge like so. So maybe we'll lean it ever so slightly, like so maybe, and move it down like with one click. That's maybe too much, so we'll hold shift instead, move it back up and then shift it down. Now I can see that it bleeds on that edge. You can see how this shows through. So I'm gonna move it like maybe a bit forward. Does that look bad on the back? Yes, it does. Okay, so we'll undo all of that all the way back to here, and then undo the rotation as well. So we'll go with the slightly lesser rotation. If I hold control, I can get like a smaller angle on the rotation when working on it, like so. We'll hold control, we'll move it in as well. So we're like here. It's maybe a bit too much on rotation still. Like so maybe. Maybe rotating it, like turning it a bit could be good. Like so, potentially. Backwards a bit. Is this too much? Is this bad? You have to play around with this to get the feel that you're looking for. But I think it's kind of good. Now I also want to rotate his head a bit so that it's looking a bit upwards, and maybe rotate his front body a bit so it's kind of like a bit forward. It looks a bit creepy, doesn't he? I don't know. It's close to Halloween this year when this video is produced, regardless. So maybe it's for the better good, or maybe it's like this is embracing you with open arms, kind of like in a laughing way. Now all I've done here is to reposition all of the limbs and positions. But what you also notice is that everything that I've selected here, piece by piece, is shown up here. And you have the hat, you have the mid, and it has this little symbol next to it. Rotation, position, rotation. These are called keyframes. And what they allow us to do is to essentially tell the character that here where this is gonna go, here is where we're gonna go with that, and yada yada. It's, as I said before, when I want something that is right here, right now, over time to move to somewhere else, what I would do with the keyframe is that I have one keyframe for this rotation in this position, and then let's say I take my mouse and I click somewhere on this timeline. I'm going to move to keyline relocator, the timeline player, let's say to 4 seconds. By just clicking, I can just click on 3 as well. This snaps. By default, your program is set to snap by 0.04 seconds. I've turned my up to 0.05 because of some Java Minecraft projects. Don't worry about that. It's up to you if you want to change that. It's also doable in the settings. So let's say I wanted to go by 3 seconds right here, and at 3 seconds I would like this to rotate forward, right? But as you can see, it seems like nothing has happened here. I don't get this little symbol, but that is because this block or this section we've selected, the mid, is not the one we're looking at right here. So let's see if we can get selected or look at mid, if it's somewhere around. Yeah, here's mid, and that is very correct. There's a keyframe there. Interesting. So what happens now if I click on this timeline relocator and drag? Well, lo and behold, there is motion added. Interesting. Two things then to note about this timeline. First, you have the symbol over here, this little blue thing. This can also be dragged and put somewhere else. This notes the end of your animation. It says this is where the animation ends. This is all of the keyframes that I'm going to export whenever I'm exporting this animation. Everything that is from 0 to this point will be the animation. Now, by default, if you're playing an animation and it's not at the end keyframe of all of or any of the objects or targets that you have in your scene, it will automatically move to the last one when you play. And to play this one, you either click on play animation here, or you click on spacebar on your keyboard. I'm gonna do spacebar, and you can see how it leans forward and it stops and it goes back to the beginning. Okay, cool. Now, right clicking on the animation, I can set it to loop, override, update variable, and other things. What I'm gonna do here is to loop it, because I would like the snowman to rock back and forth in this animation. So I'm gonna pull that one. Did you see what I did? I clicked in the space, held left click, dragged, and thus selected this particular keyframe. Left click, drag, and now it's blue. If I want to deselect it, I click somewhere around it, or just not on it, somewhere else. I can select it here, click somewhere else. It's not deselected, I have to click somewhere else within the timeline field to deselect it. So I put that one on 2. And now I want to copy the first one, so I'm going to drag over it, Control C for copy, then move my timeline relocator to where I want in time to reposition back at the start again, like at the start of the motion. So I want this one to return to that keyframe. Then I'm going to relocate it there, make sure that I have selected this one on the mid object that I'm moving this keyframe within. copied it, had this moved, and then Control V for paste. Now it's taken this keyframe and pasted over here. If I were to accidentally selected another object and done the same thing, it would paste that keyframe on that object, which means that that object itself would also now do the translation to those new coordinates, those new values that this one had. Which means that, yeah, you can essentially accidentally make some really weird fun motions in this software, but that's how animation is. It's a long learning curve process. So we have a rocking forth and a rocking back. That's what this guy does. And it's gonna do like that, back and forth, back and forth. Now this is a simple and fun animation, right? Let's make it slightly creepier, shall we? Okay, so I'm gonna go in at 1 second. I'm gonna do the like arm a bit like that. And like so. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here. Copy and paste that arm movement all the way to the back. Gonna go back to this arm. And the beginning movement, copy and paste at the back. So now it has an up and a down, and an up and a down. Okay, maybe it's interesting, I don't know. One thing that is also quite creepy is if an object is always looking at something. We had a target here. This snowman is supposed to look somewhere. Okay, I would like him to look straight ahead to something around here. Now, if I want to keep him looking that direction, I kind of have to compensate for the fact that he's currently leaning forward his upper body. So I'm going to rotate the head back up a bit so that it's still looking in that direction, and then copy the first frame and put it at the very back. Now, the snowman is leaning forward, but is still looking at the same target, while the rest of the body is moving. These are just some basic animation principles on how to make things look and feel a bit more alive, and you can play around with them as much as you like to. I'm going to do a bit more movement just for the sake of it. So, let's see here. I would like the hat to move a bit, and when he's leaning forward, maybe I want the hat to just ever so slightly go like behind to here. That frame, it just leans for slowly behind, and then it kind of falls back the other direction just slightly whenever it leans back, like so. Let's see here. So very slight movement, and then it turns and it goes back, and very slight movement, and copy the first frame, put it over the end, like so. Play again, deselect, and maybe it's a bit quick. Do like that maybe. We'll go with this and do some more motion to it slowly like that. Oh, that's good. Now it has like a nice bounce. Oh, it's a bit of a bounce. Can maybe do it a bit slower as well. Like a slower bounce. Maybe it's bouncing in a different way. Like slower, like boom, bouncing back up. Potentially. Could do that. We could also, in the very beginning of the motion, add a bit of like a backwards motion as well, just like we had over here. So it's like, oh, back in there. We can remove the key in between. It's moving like that, it's moving back, it's moving forth, it's moving back, it's, oh. Okay, interesting. And then maybe we want to lean the body a bit on the sides, so this like leaning, ooh, like this, and then the same thing on here, like that. Now I'm also going to compensate for the head in this motion, so that it's still looking forward. Like so. Balancing it, because we want this guy to be really freaky, so it's always like looking proper forward. Oh, you can see that. That's a nice movement. It's almost like the head is like circulating. Let's see here. Like, oh, yeah, oh. Okay. Still, very basic movement. There's nothing crazy to this, but it's a cool way you could play around with it. Now, what I would implore you to do is, of course, to take everything that you've seen in this episode and try to apply it to something else. Something that you've made in Blockbench, and tweet it to me. Tweet it at ArtsByKev. Let me see what you have done. I'm really curious right now. It's interesting to see if anyone has taken anything from this little video series and made something like actively themselves that could be kind of cool. I would be so amazed to just see you guys' productions and creations in general. Really curious. Oh, that's creepy. I'm just gonna go some weird finger snaps. Why not? Let's do that. Okay, like weird finger snappy. Ooh, finger snappy. It's like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, another one here. Wow, like that. And then first frame, of course, back to the beginning again. Maybe move all of these ones over here. That could be creepy. So this one goes like slack. Did I forget to redo the first motion? Yeah, I did. Okay. So let's see here. That one goes there. Oh, yeah, this guy is getting freakier. So freak animations are usually quite sporadic. There's a lot that you can read onto when it comes to animation and try to proper put forth a certain feel or emotion or characteristic. This is just some very basic movement to try to, well, show you how you could work with animation on this guy in particular. Because why not? I'm not sure if you have actually put this project together yourself, then show me. Show how you did your snowman. What you gave it for emotion. If you have any like fun things, maybe he's like dropping his hat or lifting his hat with his arm and like, oh, hello and stuff like that. It would be so fun to see. So, without further ado, I hope that this series has been helpful to you. If you would like to like this video, it would help me out very much in return. And comment what else would you want to see the next. What more projects can I produce that would be in your interest? Are we supposed to make like a modeling series where I take proper bigger things like the snowman, for example, and do it like a speed up time-lapse kind of approach where you can see me working out a bigger concept and talking over it and explaining how I'm thinking, my thought process, bringing things into Photoshop, doing weird textures in that, maybe like some photo manipulation to it. Tell me, I have no idea what you would like to see, but it would be so fun to see if we can come up with something cool. So, with that, have a great day, subscribe, and I'll see you around in the next tutorial episode. Have a great one.